Hey everyone, it's Jason. Welcome to Marvel Champions, the card game Next Evolution Campaign, Part 2. So if you haven't, for whatever reason, go back, check out Part 1, where we go over the two new heroes, which showing here, Cable and Domino. As well as we go over the campaign cards, which are like the rewards you can get throughout the campaign, as potential threats to gain as well. So this one, we're going to go over all the villains. I just wanted to separate it because they get a little bit long for videos. And just a heads up, there will be obviously spoilers for the storyline of the campaign, because as you go through each deck, you're going to see who you're fighting, what their threats are, and that. So for some reason, you're still trying to keep the rest of the campaign a secret, for yourself, don't watch this video. But otherwise, we're going to go through all the different cards in here. But before we hop into the cards, we want to look at a couple of quick things. I'm not going to go over too much into this one because I don't think it shows up that much in the villains one, but we have player side schemes. So this is a new mechanic for the game, where there are side schemes that are in the actual player's decks, which then when they get played, they work like any other side scheme. So they sit out, anyone can try and defeat them. When you defeat them, things happen. They go up per number of players, stuff like that. But they also will affect any other side scheme. So if there's a character that says, does, like 1 damage per every side scheme in play, if you have 2 of these player side schemes out and 2 regular side schemes, it'll do 4 damage. So they're a fun addition because it lets your players add a little bit of extra threat or urgency into the game, with the knowing that you have a bonus coming if you beat that. But depending on what story or villains you're fighting against, these could be exponentially a lot harder if they deal with having more schemes into play. So yeah, I don't think there's any in here because those are only the player decks, but I just want to bring them up in case. The other new thing we want to bring up is the assault keyword, which is brand new for this expansion. It says when a character makes a basic thwart on a scheme, with the assault keyword, that character uses its attack instead of its thwart. If the character is an ally, it takes consequential damage listed under its attack instead of thwart after the thwart. So this is basically being like the X-Force team that starts to be represented in Next Evolution, are a little bit more aggressive. So sometimes they're going to solve their problems with violence versus, thought and planning. So they're going to attack it head on, destroy the problem, versus trying to thwart and figure out a way how to do it. That's the only other brand new one. I mean, some of the other things will obviously pop up. So we're going to go ahead and go. I'm not going to look through the rest of the book or the story pictures. In the book, that's not really an issue. We just want to look at what cards we are. So we're going to start off with our first group of villains. This is actually kind of an interesting way they did this. Is we start with the Marauders. Get my camera to focus here. So the Marauders are a fun group of mutants that are generally hired by Mr. Sinister, but not necessarily always. But this is a neat way they did this. Is obviously it's the first boss group you fight, but it's 1 of 7. Because what they do is they actually do double duty in the first 2 campaigns of the game. Which is a neat little twist on it. So we're going to start with Arclight Side A. So instead of having your typical 1, 2, 3 levels, these guys have side A's and B's, which basically means easy, difficult, hard, difficult. So she has 1 steam, 1 attack, brute, and the Marauder keyword, and 10 hit points per player. Force interrupt. When Arc-like attacks you or an ally you control, choose to confuse a character you control, or she gets +2 attack for this attack. Interesting. So she kind of like, uses her light to kind of blind you or set you off. Now if we flip her over, basically stuff just gets worse. She gets more steaming in attack. But her ability stays the same. Up next, we have Blockbuster, who has no steam but 2 attack. Brute Marauder as well. Force interrupt. When Blockbuster attacks you or an ally you control, choose to get Blockbuster or Tough status card, or he gets +2 attack for this attack. So this is kind of fun. These guys are basically, if they're attacking you, they're either going to gain bonus, or they're going to gain some other effect, extra attack. So they're going to do more damage, or they're going to mess with you some other way. And then, if you go up, he just gets one more attack and one more steam. So the stats are just going up. Hit points go up a little. Thirdly, we have Chimera. 1 steam, 1 attack, Marauder, and Psionic. It's just been a very prominent word throughout the X-Men set, and it will continue throughout the X-Force series of characters. When you control one Chimera attack you or an ally, choose to spend a genius resource, or she gets 2 attack. And if we flip her, just her, again, her stats up. Now, her actually bottom one changes. She has to spend 2 genius instead. We have Grey Crow. Which is very interesting, because when this comes out, I think this set was designed with the intention of sort of being set, like, comic-wise. I know these sets don't necessarily follow the comics directly. They kind of make their own universe. But it's kind of set before the whole Krakoa era from comic books. So, like, during that time later on, he actually becomes a good guy and works with everybody. So this would have been sort of set before that. Marauder, Mercenary. When you attack, choose to either discard the highest cost card you control, or he gets X attack for this attack, where X is the printed cost of the highest card you control. Yeah, so lots of other guys are only gaining 2 attacks, so he potentially could gain a lot more than 2 attack. But you also lose a lot more. And then his other side, his stats just go up. Just discard each card you control at the highest cost. Or gets X for the cost with the highest. So interesting. Then we have Harpoon, Brute, and Marauder. Force interrupt when Harpoon attacks you or an ally you control. Take 2 indirect damage, or give Harpoon 1 additional face down boost for this attack. This is kind of showing him being like almost like a sniper in a sense. His other side is or take 3 indirect damage or gain 1 additional face down, and this attack gains overkill. I like that they did start to change them a little bit. And then we have Riptide. Assassin and Marauder. When Riptide forces you, attacks you or an ally you control, place 2 threat on the main steam and 1 threat on each side steam, or he gets +2 attack. It's very interesting things you have to debate between these. Can you deal with the extra 2 attack, which could be defended against, or it could be 2 extra damage? Again, if he's attacking an ally has 1 health, you just let him take 3 damage. It doesn't matter. Unless they have, like, overkill. But, yeah, so it might be worth just letting him take that and hitting the other thing. Place 3 threat on the main steam, 1 on each. Or he gets 2 attack gains ranged and piercing. And then finally, our 7th Marauder is we have Vertigo. Marauder and Mutate. Stun a character, or she gets 2 attack. And the other side is stun a character you control at the highest attack, or she gets 2 attack for this attack. So they're actually, like, you don't get to just choose to stun a character, because here it's just stun a character you control. You can choose, like, your weakest one. Here it's forcing you to stun your highest one who could possibly defend against her. So that's very interesting. Alright, so we're going to kind of see how those guys are utilized in the first main part of the campaign, which we have is Knock Knock. So this is going to use the Marauders on side A or B for expert mode, Morlock Siege, which is this set, and standard encounter sets, and then 2 modular encounters, Military Grade and Mutant Slayers, which are the next 2 modulars we'll see. And then it kind of explains how to put that out. And then what do we have here for the actual 6 per player? They're trying to rob a bank, it looks like. That's what it looks like, at least. Force response. After resolving this step, One of the villain phase plays one knock counter here. If there are at least 3 knock counters here, advance to stage 2A. If there are 3 villains under routed, the players win the game. So we'll have to see how that works. Setup for the main one is Mutant Massacre. Each player puts aside 1 Morlock ally into play under their control. 2 set aside Morlock allies instead if this is a single player game. Shuffle the Hide Treachery into the encounter deck. If the previous stage was advanced by knocking counters, give each Morlock ally a tough status card. And if we flip this over, 8 per player. Action, exhaust a Morlock ally, shuffle Hide from the encounter discard pile into the encounter deck. If there are 3 villains under the routed, the players win the game. If this stage is complete and there are no Morlock allies in play, the players lose the game. So even if you beat it, you have to protect these Morlocks. So what we're going to get to help or hinder, I guess, whichever, we have 4 copies of Morlock, which are going to go 1 for each player. So they're Thwart 1, Attack 1, both with consequential damage. 5 health for their Morlock and Mutant. Victory -1. Does not count against your ally limit. Card abilities do not remove this ally from play. Force interrupt. When an enemy attacks you, it attacks a Morlock you control instead. So the idea is the Marauders are specifically targeting the Morlocks, and you control, each player controls one. So you're going to want to try and do whatever you can to protect them. And then they kept mentioning the Hide card, which is a Treachery. Surge, when revealed, give 1 Morlock ally a tough status card. Boost, give 1 Morlock ally a tough status card. Give this villain an additional boost card for this activation. This is really interesting because we have cards in here now that you get, which kind of, I guess, sort of help and hinder you, the Morlocks, but then you also have a Hide card, which is basically it's giving the Morlocks the ability to stay alive longer. They can take an additional hit. It's just kind of neat. There's cards in the bad guy villain deck that sort of help you. Then we have an environment card called Routed, which we had just mentioned. Standard mode only. Cards under here are not in play. Force response. After the villain is defeated, put it under here. Discard each minion that shares a title with the top villain of the villain deck. That villain is in play. The villain activates against each player in player order. So discard each minion that shares a title with the top villain of the main deck. After the villain is defeated, discard each minion. Yeah, so you gotta discard a bunch of the minions. So basically you're scaring them away. And then expert mode. Villain gains retaliate 1 for each card under here. And this is after the villain is defeated. Under here, discard each minion that shares the title with the top villain of the main deck. That villain is in play. The villain activates against each player in player order. So basically how this is working, this is an interesting scenario. I'm going to go to the book here. So you kind of look at this because there is a little extra rules here. So Morlock Case has several different villains. Only 1 villain will be in play at a time, but the order is randomized so the player never knows who will appear next. In order to win this scenario, must defeat 3 of these villains. Knock instruction to put Routed environment card into play. Setup. Routed has 2 sides, 1 for standard, 1 for expert, and tells players what to do when a player is defeated. Unlike other scenarios, when one of these villains is defeated, all tokens, status, and attachments on the just defeated villain are discarded instead of carrying over to the next villain. So normally you'd have like a level 1, and when you defeat them, like their level 2 would just come out and they get stronger. Here what happens is we just showed off them 7 Morlocks. You're playing against all 7 of them. You just don't know which 3 you're going to be fighting in which order. You gotta shuffle them up and then play them. And then as you defeat them, they're going to basically run away, and you're going to take all their minions with them. Now you're fighting the next minion, which is like the quote-unquote like level 2 version, but you're kind of fighting fresh. So basically, if you can defeat a villain, you scare them off. Now they gotta regroup, come back at you, gives you a little bit of a breather, and then you defeat them. But you have to defeat all 3 of them. So that's pretty interesting. Then we have their extra cards. We have Bolstered by Wrath, an attachment condition attached to the villain. Hero action. Exhaust a character you control and spend X resources of any type. When X is the number of villains underrouted, discard this card. And then boost, this gets plus X boost icons where X is the number of villains underrouted. So this gets more powerful the more guys you've defeated. Well, it has +1 steam and 1 attack. Push to the limits, attachment condition. Well, there's exactly 1 villain underrouted. The attached villain gains steady. Well, there are 2 villains underrouted, it gains stalwart. And hero action attached. Villain attacks you, discard this card. So you force them to attack you to get rid of that. Otherwise, they have an additional attack. We have by any means side scheme. When revealed, place an additional 1 per player threat here for each villain underrouted. And they draw an additional card. In the midst of chaos. So when revealed, place 1 per player additional threat here for each villain underrouted. It advances this threat. Marauding ain't easy. When revealed, place 1 per additional threat here under each villain underrouted. Gains 1 extra boost. So you can definitely see why this is going to get more challenging. The first guy you might defeat and all the villains go away. Hey, great, we did a breather. But now they're going to come back. All their cards are going to be stronger. And the second time you defeat them, now until you defeat that third one, everyone's going to be even stronger. And we also have territorial control, assault. So you have to use the attack against this. When revealed, place 1 additional per player threat here for each villain underrouted. And then it has the crisis icon. So you have to deal with that one first. We have 2 copies of Back in Action. When revealed, give the villain the tough status card. Place threat on the main scheme equal to the number of villains underrouted. Boost, if you control a Morlock ally, choose to either deal 1 damage to it or spend 1 resource of any type. And then we have 3 copies of Seek the Weak. When revealed, Alter Ego, this card gains Surge. When revealed, the hero, villain attacks you. If there's at least 1 villain underrouted, this attack gains Overkill. Boost, this activation is an attack, it gains Overkill. Yes, a very, very interesting idea of a deck. You need to protect characters against a potentially, not even a potentially, a for sure growing threat. So what do the villains have to help them? They do have 2 encounters. The first one is military grade. So this is going to be extra weapons. You have heavy armament. Weapon attached to the enemy with the highest attack. Enemy gains retaliate 2. Your response, after you attack the attacked enemy, spend 2 resources of the same type to discard this attack. It gives them a 2 additional attack on there. Titanium exoskeleton. Armor and tech. Attached to the enemy at the fewest remaining hit points. That enemy cannot take more than 2 damage from a single attack. Hero action. Choose to either spend 3 resources of any type, or remove a confused or stunned status card from an attacked enemy to discard this card. 2 copies of Inhibitor Collars attached to your identity. Treat your identity's printed text box as if it were blank except for traits. Action, choose to either exhaust a character you control or take 3 damage to discard this card. Any player can do this, and it has a -1 attack. And then finally, we have Senator Support. This kind of hardware isn't found in the black market. Some higher-ups in the U.S. government must be supplying it. Hinder 1 per player. When defeated, the first player discards cards from the top of the encounter deck until an attachment is discarded. Reveals that card. So this could definitely trigger those, but it could trigger other ones as well. Hinder X. Hinder says, when a card with Hinder enters play, place X threat on that card. So it gets an additional threat per player. These are also fun, not just because of the fact they're going to make this deck even harder to fight against, but because it's being a modular encounter, you can throw this in other decks, which is always fun. Then the other encounter we're going to get is the Mutant Slayers. We're actually going to get more of the Marauders. You might be like, but we just saw the Marauders. This is so that if I'm fighting, Vertigo or Grey Crow or Blockbuster. I can have, Minion and, Minion and Chimera or Harpoon or Riptide helping me out. So whatever villain I'm fighting, I can have the rest of my team, the villains can have the rest of their team help them out. So this is kind of a neat way to do that. Plus, then it gets you guys the Marauders to add to everything else. So you have Arclight, Brute, Marauder, Retaliate 1, Force Interrupt when you control, choose an ally you control. Confuse your character, gets 2 attacks. I think it's going to be a lot of the same as what their main versions did. They just have less hit points. So Blockbuster has Guard, gains a stuffed status card, or +2 attack. Chimera has Patrol, and he spends a genius resource that gets +2 attack. Grey Crow has Retaliate 1, discard the highest cost card you control, or +X for the highest printed cost. Harpoon has Guard, take 2 indirect damage, or +2 attack for this, gains Piercing. Just to go over some of these effects quick, just in case you forgot, we went over a bunch. Patrol says while your minions are with Patrol or engaged with a player cannot use cards they control to thwart the main scheme. Piercing, discards a tough status card before dealing damage. Rain ignores Retaliate keyword. Retaliate means you do damage back to the player if they attack you. Stalwart, character cannot be stunned or confused. Steady can have 1 additional stunned status card and 1 additional confused card before they get stunned or confused. I don't have Guard listed in here, but I believe Guard means that you have to attack them before you can attack the main character. Here we have Riptide, Patrol, and 2 threat on the main scheme, 1 on each side scheme, and +2 attack, or +2 attack. And then Vertigo, who has Guard again, stun a character or 2 attack. And then we do have a side scheme to go with them, Mutant Slayers. Each Marauder minion gains Quick Strike. When revealed, place 1 additional threat here for each character in play with more than one or more of the following traits: Mutant, X-Factor, X-Force, and X-Men. So you've seen X-Men, we've seen X-Force in this set, and then we've seen a couple of X-Factors. So I don't know if they're just some few are going to trickle in here or there, or if we're going to get a full set. And then we have 2 of the last set of cards for this encounter is Bound by Business. And look, there's Sabretooth. When revealed, discard cards from the encounter until a Marauder minion that does not share a title with this card in play is discarded. Put that minion in play and engage with you. So there are the Marauders. So one thing I do want to re-point out is that in the campaign we watched from the first video, is you do have 4 extra Marauders that can get added into the game, with Vanisher, Scrambler, Malice, and Lady Mastermind. So these are all part of the campaign setup, so they could get added in. So that means when you're playing the campaign, if you're using these mode in here, you might end up with additional threats with them. Alright, so up next we have the next mission or scenario, Gotta Get Away. So this again is going to use Marauders, the main 7 of them. On the run, Mutant Slayers standard on 2 modular encounters are the Military Grade and Nasty Boys. Just gonna have the Nasty Boys in here as well. Just put 1 random Marauder villain into play. Remove the minion with the same title as the villain, along with each other villain from the game. Attach the Hope chapter attachment to the villain and Confident side up. So yeah, this is the next part of this. So it says each Marauder minion gains Steady and Expert. Each villain also gains Steady. When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck for a Marauder minion, puts them into play, engage with them, and shuffle. This stage is complete. The players lose the game. So yeah, let's look at this. On the run, shares of 7 villains from Morlock Siege. Unlike Morlock Siege, however, only one of these villains, chosen at random, is used on the run. Guided Getaway attaches to Hope's capture. This villain confidence out of the character to Hope capture requires a player to defeat the attacked villain twice in order to win this scenario. So this then treats it like a regular one, but again, you have 7 different ones, so you don't know which one you're going to be fighting against, which adds a little bit of extra thing. Then if we get this up too, we have Escaping with Hope. Having taken a pounding, the Marauders redouble their efforts to escape with their captive. When revealed, each player searches the encounter deck and discard pile from Marauder minion and puts that minion into play and engage with them. Shuffle, each Marauder is giving a tough status card. And then this side, each Marauder minion gains guard and steady. In expert mode, the villain gains steady. If the villain is defeated, the players win the game. If this stage is completed, the players lose the game. Alright. So then we have Hope's Captor. Confident and permanent. Force Interrupt. When a villain would attack you if a Marauder minion is engaged with you, you use villain schemes instead. Force Interrupt when the villain would be defeated. Reset attached villain's hit points to its printed hit point value instead. Flip this card and reveal it. Interesting. So whoever's holding this guy gets to have them back. And then it says now Desperate Permanent. The villain gets plus 6 hit points per player. When revealed, advance the main scheme to stage 2A. This effect cannot be cancelled. Force Interrupt. When a villain would attack you, if a Marauder minion is engaged with you, the villain schemes instead. Gets 1 attack and 1 scheme. So basically what this does with this Hope's Captor card is it goes on the villain, then saying when they get defeated, they flip them over, and you play the harder version of them right off the bat. So normally you pick which side you're going to play against. Or you don't actually play it, you don't flip them over. You reset them and you have to fight them again, but now they get more hit points to make up for that. I guess you could flip them over if you want to make it even harder. But the bottom part is basically, if other Marauders are attacking you, this one gets to keep using its theme. It gets to scheme instead. So even if it would attack normally, it just like, no, my teammates have you engaged, I can keep doing what I need to be doing, which is they're trying to escape. So it's an interesting mechanic. We have 2 copies of Hidden in the Clutter. Attachment condition. Attach to the enemy to fewest remaining hit points. Force Interrupt. When any emotive damage would be dealt to attack the enemy, place it here instead. If there's at least 3 damage here, the attached enemy attacks the player who dealt damage to them, then discard this card. Favored Weapon Attachment. Attached to Grey Crow or Harpoon, otherwise attached to the Marauder at the lowest attack. Attached enemy's attack gains Overkill, Piercing, and Ranged. Response. After the hero defends against an attack from attached enemy and takes no damage, discard this card. We have Bushwhack Side Scheme. When defeated, the player who defeated this scheme searches the encounter deck and discard pile from Marauder minion, puts it in play, engaged with them. Pure Force. While Blockbuster is in play, this scheme gains a Crisis. While Chimera is in play, this scheme gains Amplify. Now, what's interesting about this is that this works much like some of the hero cards. It says just while they're in play. Doesn't matter if they're the main villain or one of the minions. So yeah, depending on which one it's going to hit. If they're the main character, it's always going to hit. If they're a minion, it's only going to happen if they get drawn. But we have some more like that. We have Dizzying Deeds. When revealed, exhaust a character you control. If the following enemies are in play: Arclight, stun a character. Riptide, take 3 indirect damage. Vertigo, confuse a character you control. And more of these guys are in play. These are going to be heftier and heftier effects to deal with. Tag Team. When revealed, choose each Marauder minion engaged with you, activates against you, or discard 7 cards from the top of the encounter deck. Put the topmost Marauder minion in the encounter discard pile into play, engaged with you. And like 2 copies of that. So those are our second scenario. And then our extra encounter is going to be the Nasty Boys. So there's some extra terrible minions to fight. These are kind of like, if I remember right, these are kind of Morlocks that were sort of like even shunned by the Morlocks. They're kind of like evil. Like most Morlocks are generally like, we're just trying to live our lives, leave us alone. These guys are kind of actively like criminalish. We have Gorgeous George, who has Teamwork. Nasty Boys. Teamwork is a fun villain effect. It says after a minion of Teamwork enters play, engages a player. If there's at least one other minion that shares a specified trait in play, each minion that shares a Teamwork, the same specified trait activates against the player it's engaged with. So if he comes into play and there's another Nasty Boy, they both get to attack immediately. So yeah, taking these guys out as quickly as possible is recommended. Force Interrupt when Gorgeous Charge attacks you, exhaust the character you control. Boost, exhaust the character you control. We have Hairbag, with Surge and Teamwork. Boost, after the activation, shuffle Hairbag into the encounter. Ramrod, Retaliate 1, his attack gains Piercing. And Boost, if the villain is attacking, this attack gains Piercing. Ruckus, when revealed, stun each character you control. Boost, you are stunned. And then finally Slab, who has Toughness, and when Slab attacks, place one growth counter on him. Slab gets one attack for each growth counter on him this way. And then you have a side scheme. Get Nasty. Each minion gets +1 attack. When revealed, place one threat here for each minion in play. 2 threat instead for each Nasty Boy. Search the encounter deck and discard pile for Nasty Boy minion and reveal it. Yeah, this comes into play. Now you have to deal with it, which have a bunch of extra threat if you have Nasty Boys out, and they're gonna get to probably attack right away. So it's a fun little extra group you can fight against. Alright, so our next villain, our third villain of the game, is we're going to fight against King Marco the Juggernaut. Who has, so he has a level 1, 2, and 3, so 1 Steam, 2 attack, and Brute. Gets +1 attack for each momentum counter here. When revealed, place 1 momentum counter here, give Juggernaut a tough status card. Ain't nobody can beat me, I'm the Juggernaut. When he levels up, gets +1 attack for each momentum counter here. Place 1 momentum counter here. Juggernaut exposes in play. Flip it, otherwise give him a tough status card. And then he has his third one. Gets +1 attack for each momentum. Search the encounter deck and discard pile for Head of Steam and reveal it. Juggernaut exposes in play. Flip it, otherwise receives a stuffed status card. So basically he's going to get these extra abilities the bigger he gets. So he's got 4 attack +1, so he starts off with 1 additional counter most of the time. So you have 4 or 5 attack easily. So Unstoppable Juggernaut, we fight against him. We also have the Hope, Summers, and the standard encounter sets, and 1 modular counter, Black Tom Cassidy. Set up attach Juggernaut's helmet to Juggernaut, put Hope Summers into play under the first player's control. Alright, so what do we have here? 7 per player. Force Interrupt. When the scheme would be completed, instead do each of the following. Remove all threat from here. If Juggernaut's exposed is in play, flip it. Place 1 momentum counter on Juggernaut. Juggernaut attacks each player in order, even if they're in alter ego form. So yeah, basically defeating this doesn't do a whole lot for you. I mean, obviously, sorry, not defeating this. Stopping this is very important, but you can't, I don't know if you can fully defeat it. So yeah, you don't want to have him do that. Alright, then let's look at, he has this helmet. He's going to start with Juggernaut's helmet. Attachment, armor, permanent. Attached to Juggernaut. Juggernaut gains a stalwart skill and his attacks gain overkill. Action, spend 3 resources of the same type to remove each momentum counter from Juggernaut to flip this card. So yeah, if you flip this over, then he gets exposed. You get some of his stuff that said if he came into play if this was attached. You gotta flip this back over so he kind of like re-readies himself. Juggernaut takes 1 additional damage from each card with a genius resource. Force response after Juggernaut steams, place 1 momentum on Juggernaut and then flip this card. So if he takes a turn to not attack and kind of think about stuff, he gets to like kind of like re-put his armor back, reform his armor. And then the other is level 3 started off with Head of Steam. Juggernaut gains Retaliate X, where X is the number of momentum counters on Juggernaut. When revealed, attack Head of Steam with Juggernaut and place 1 momentum counter on him. Response after Juggernaut attacks you, spend 1 resource for each damage dealt by that attack to discard this card. So to get rid of it, you have to first of all take damage, and then you have to spend a bunch. But he's going to gain more and more attack every time he has more momentum. So the longer you let him go before you get rid of some of these cards, the harder he's going to get. And that, he has, of course, building momentum. Hero response after you defend against an attack from Juggernaut. Remove 1 threat from this scheme. Oh, there's a double boost there. Ooh. 2 copies of Breakthrough. When revealed, choose to take damage equal to Juggernaut's attack or discard the highest cost upgrade or support you control. Oh yeah. That's when you break through a wall. He becomes Kool-Aid Man. 2 copies of Flatten. Oh, he's fighting Captain Britain there. That's pretty cool. Treachery. When revealed, choose to either take damage equal to Juggernaut's attack or place 1 momentum counter on him. Boost to give him a tough status card. Ground Pound. When revealed, the player as a group takes indirect damage equal to Juggernaut's attack. Boost, take 1 indirect damage. 2 copies of Trample. Deadpool. When revealed, take 2 direct damage. When revealed, hero, Juggernaut attacks the ally to feel its remaining hit points. Boost, deal 1 damage to an ally you control. And then 3 copies of Siderax Exemplar. In expert mode, this card gains insight. 1. When revealed, if Juggernaut exposes in play, flip it and place 1 momentum on Juggernaut. Otherwise, place a threat on the main scheme equal to his attack. So just again to look back at his basic one, he gets 1 attack for each momentum. So there's a bunch of different cards that will give him momentum, and very few that actually get rid of them. And like the big one to get rid of it was his helmet, which did say spend 3 resources, remove each momentum counter, and then when it's flipped over, he gets to put it back on, he gets to add a momentum counter. So, and a lot of stuff gave you the option either take damage or put momentum counters on him. So maybe early on, you could afford to give him 1 extra momentum counter, realizing you could try and deal with taking out his helmet, like maybe the next turn or later in the turn before he does something. Otherwise, if you let it go too long, he's going to start doing like 5, 6, 7 damage to you. And then you're going to have to take this out. So it's a very interesting deck. That's Juggernaut. Up next is listed as the Hope Summers module, which has 2. So now there's 2 different sets of Hope Summers in this game. There is the Encounter here, and then in the other video you did see there was just a basic version that you can add into any deck. You can't use both of these at the same time. So if you're playing the campaign here and you're using this mode, you can't add the other one to your deck because she obviously can't be in a villain's deck and in your deck at the same time. But yeah, it's kind of neat to get the option. This could also be included in lots of other campaigns, just to, like, you know, maybe give yourself a little bit of advantage. We have Psionic, X-Force, and X-Men setup. The first player controls Hope Summers. Hope Summers does not count towards your ally limit. Her base thwart and base attack are equal to the thwart and attack of your hero. If she leaves players, the players lose the game. So this could give you a good advantage because she's going to basically have an extra thwart and attacker equal to your character, but being that she only has 3 health, you really have to watch out with her dying. And then we have Captive Hope side steam. Alright, I know the deal. Hope grumbles to her captors. This isn't my first time being captured, you know. Hope Summers cannot ready. When revealed, exhaust Hope Summers. It just comes into play too, which basically shuts her down until you get rid of it. So it's kind of a little bit of a handicap, but that's kind of a neat way to have an additional character in the game. Then the next full encounter set, or module set, is Black Tom Cassidy, who is, of course, Juggernaut's friend, one of his friends, and the Banshee's brother. Brother or cousin? Might be his cousin. I think it's his cousin. So one scheme, one attack. Criminal and elite villainous. Black Tom Cassidy cannot take damage while Creeping Willow is in play. When revealed, search the encounter deck and discard pile for one copy of Creeping Willow. Put it in play, engage with you. So for that, we're going to get 4 copies of that. Minion with 0 steam, 1 attack. Wood. Guard and Quick Strike. Force response after Creeping Willow attacks and damages a character, stun this character. Boost, you are stunned. So this is he comes into play, he's gonna find these, give 1 to every player, essentially. And then you have to defeat all of them before you can defeat them. So it's gonna make it a little bit harder. Making green, hinder 2 per player. Each copy of Creeping Willow gains Surge and draw an extra card. And then the last one is a Sound Thrashing. When revealed, each copy of Creeping Willow attacks a player it is engaged with, even if that player is in its alter ego form. If you are not attacked this way, search the encounter deck and discard pile for a copy of Creeping Willow and reveal it. So very cool. That's very interesting. These are our first 3. And then we have a bunch more to go. So let's hop into them. Alright, so our 4th villain of the game will be Mr. Sinister. Long-time X-Men villain. Steam 2, attack 1, ingenious. Force response. After a status card is placed on Mr. Sinister, place 1 threat on the main scheme. Visionary Savior, Madman, it doesn't matter. I am Sinister. His level 2 upgrades him to more steam and attack. When revealed, place 1 per player threat on the main scheme. 2 instead of Mr. Sinister has fewer than 2 superpower attachments. Which will be interesting to see how that works. Force response after status card is placed on Mr. Sinister, place 2 threat on the main scheme. So he's a very big steamer. And then level 3 just ups everything a little bit more. 2 and 3 threat per when revealed, and then Force Response now places 3. So what is his main thing? He has Sinister Intent. So you're going to use Mr. Sinister, Super Strength, Flight, and Telepathy, Hope Summers again, in 1 standard counter insect. 1 encounter set of the Nasty Boys. Set aside Flight, Super Strength, and Telepathy encounter sets. Put Hope Summer into play under the first player's control. Then we flip that over. We're going to see what we have to do. The secret laboratory hidden below the abandoned orphanage is filled with vats containing innocent mutants, subject of Sinister's experiments. When revealed, remove 1 random stage 2 from the game. Then advance to a random stage 2 area. Interesting. So you set this up. Remove 1 random stage 2 from the game. Ooh, so we have 3 stage 2s. All called Sinister Experiments, but we don't know which one we're going to get. They have the same backs. Then advance to a random stage 2. So, just to say, Mr. Sinister talks about incorporating other mutants' DNA into his own genome. And then all 3 of the backs of these cards all say the same. They have question mark, so you don't know which one they're going to be. So, we could end up taking off when revealed, attach the flight attachment to Mr. Sinister and shuffle the rest of the flight encounter set into the encounter deck. When complete, advance to another stage 2. If you cannot, advance to stage 3. It's interesting, so you have to fight 2 of the 3 different stages on here. Interesting, you beat this one is bulking up when attached. Reveal the Super Strength attachment to Mr. Sinister, shuffle the rest of Super Strength encounter into the encounter deck, and then advance to the 3rd one. Or you might have ended up doing Focusing, which attaches the Telepathy to Mr. Sinister and the Telepathy Encounter deck. Interesting, so that's kind of neat. This has a lot of stuff where this set is playing around with like multiple pathways to take. Then we have Sinister Ends. Gaze upon my power and despair, Sinister tackles. Once I add Hope's mutation to my genetic code, I will be capable of mimicking any mutant's powers and thus will have attained perfection. When revealed, deal 1 face-down encounter card to each player. Interesting. So then we flip that over. What do we have to do? 7 per player. I should thank you, Sinister Sneers. You've done what my bumbling flunkies could not. You brought me hope. Force interrupt. When Mr. Sinister attacks, he attacks Hope Summers instead. The other characters may defend. If this stage is complete, the players lose the game. Also, if she dies, you lose the game. So there's a double-edged whammy going on there. Alright, so he has Sinister Disguise. Attachment condition. When a player would deal damage to Mr. Sinister, that player may spend 2 genius resources. If they do not, they deal damage to the friendly character, the fewest remaining hit points instead. Discard whether or not the resources were spent. Interesting. So you might have to take out one of your own teammates instead. We have 2 copies of Sinister Soldier Minion, who are clones. Gets 1 steam and 1 attack for each superpower attachment on Mr. Sinister. Boost for this activation, Mr. Sinister gets 1 steam, 1 attack for each superpower attachment, so he can get more powerful. We have a side steam teleported away. Hinder 1 per player to not take damage. Force interrupt. When Mr. Sinister would attack, he steams instead. 2 copies of Genetic Mastery. When revealed, if Mr. Sinister has the following traits: Aerial, he takes 2 indirect damage, or you take 2 indirect damage. Brute, exhaust your identity, or Psionic, place 2 threats on the main steam. The thing is, he could potentially gain at least 2 of these, because he could gain 1 from Flight, 1 from Telepath, or Telepathy, and 1 from Super Strength. So as you fight them, as they go on them steams, you could potentially gain more of these. Molecular Control. When revealed, give Mr. Sinister a tough status card. If he has the Brute trait, he heals 4 damage. Boost, give him a tough status card. The Sinister Steams. When revealed, if he has Psionic, you are confused. Boost, you are confused. And then finally, Sinister Strike. When revealed, Alter Ego. This card gains Surge. When revealed as a hero, he attacks you. If you have the aerial trait, you are stunned. And Boost. So that's kind of neat. Getting bonuses based on having more of these different traits. So what are these different traits or encounter decks? So we have Flight. So he gets to attach this. Attach to the villain. Permanent. Attached villain gains the aerial trait. Attached villain gains Overkill. What's really neat about these is because even though they're meant for Sinister, they can potentially be used in any deck. So you can give any character the Flight ability. And it's a setup ability too, so that's kind of cool. Aerial Bombardment. Attached to the villain. Attached villain gets +1 attack and ignores the retaliate keyword while attacking non-aerial characters. Hero action. Exhaust your hero and spend 2 genius resources to discard this. Out of range or out of reach. Villain cannot take damage unless the attacker or the attack has the aerial trait or the attack has range. Hero action, exhaust your hero, spend 2 energy resources to discard this card. And then 2 copies of the High Ground. When revealed, discard your tough status card from each friendly character. The player, as a group, take 2 indirect damage, 4 indirect damage instead if the villain has Brute trait. Boost the villain attacking gains Piercing. So that's actually really a fun little mechanic. Just basically, here's a boost to everybody that's not a weapon, right? It's just kind of a neat idea. Then we have Super Strength. Villain gains Brute, Trait, and Steady. Plus it gives him traits, which I think is really neat, because then he can interact out with a bunch of other stuff. So it requires 2 status cards of the same type to be stunned or confused. Impervious. Reduce the amount of damage attached to the villain takes from each attack by 1. Spend 2 might to give the villain a tough status card and discard this card. That's funny. Even though you defeat it just weakens them a bit. They're still super strong. Throwing object. Attach villain's attack gains ranged. And force response after the villain attacks, discard this card. Plus 3 attack. And then 2 copies of... I'll take that. Ooh, a Shatterstar. Discard the upgrade you control at the lowest cost, highest cost instead of the villain has psionic trait. If no upgrade or discard this way, this card gains Surge. So that's kind of neat. So like the first one with Ariel, you gain a bonus if you have Brute. This one, where you have Brute, you gain a bonus if you have a psionic trait. So they're going to work well with Mr. Sinister's idea of being able to potentially have 2 of these at some point. But even if you don't, some other villains might just gain that initially. Then we have Telepathy, Permanent, Gain Psionic, and Retaliate 1. Manufacture Drama. Oh, Honey Badger. And X32, Laura. Supports you control cannot ready. When revealed, exhaust each support you control. No supports were exhausted this way. Gain Surge. Alter Ego action. Exhaust your identity and discard 1 card from the top of your deck for each support you control. And discard this card. Sowing Discord. Domino and the posse there. Allies you control cannot ready. Revealed, exhaust each ally you control. If no allies were exhausted, gain Surge. Alter Ego action. Spend 2 resources to discard. I dare you to call me Peaches again. And then 2 copies of One Step Ahead. I got Whoopsbane, Boomer, and Cannonball. When revealed, discard 1 random card from your hand. Discard 2 instead if it has the Arrow trait. Boost the villain attacking gains Overkill. That's cool. Again, you get that cycle of all 3 of them. Alright, so our last villain. To make sense, you're playing as Cable, you have to fight Stryfe. Who has the Mutant Liberation Front and Psionic. 1 Steam, 0 attacks. He doesn't seem very hard to beat, but we'll see what happens. When Stryfe is attacking you, he gets X attack, where X is the number of cards of the most common type in your hand. Kneel before your superior. Interesting. So he's going to look at what type of card you have, which could be event, support, upgrade, and he's going to deal that amount of attacks. He's going to vary every time. Then he has 1 Steam, 1 attack. While Stryfe is attacking, he gets plus X attack, where X is the number of most common cards in their hand. When revealed, each player discards cards from the top of their encounter deck till a psionic attachment is discarded and reveals that card. Each player discards a card from the top of the encounter deck until... So that means if you're playing 4 player, you discard until you find 4 of them? Is that what that's telling me? I'm just curious if the rulebook says anything about that. It does not. It says about him recalculating attacks. Let me check his actual most common type. If you have more than 1, yeah, it doesn't really specify that. Yeah, to me that would sound like you do it for each person. Ooh, that could be really bad. But it's a when revealed effect, so at least it's not happening more than once. Then his third form is his attack versus most common attack. Force response. After you attack Stryfe, take X damage, or X is the number of cards the most common type in your hand. His main scheme is Uncontrollable Power. So Stryfe, Hope Summers, 2 standard encounter set, or the standard encounter set, and 2 modular. Extreme Measures and Mutant Insurrection, which are the 2 we haven't seen yet. So put Hope Summers into play, reveal Stryfe's Grasp. So Uncontrollable Power. Hope tries to mimic Stryfe's abilities, but is quickly overwhelmed by the power. Force response. After resolving step for 1 of the villain phase, each player places X threat here, where X is the number of cards with the most common type in their hand. Each player may discard 1 card from their hand before calculating the value of X. That's actually interesting, right? This is a neat little gameplay mechanic. If the stage is complete, players lose the game. And then part 2 is Left to Your Fate. Hope breaks free from Stryfe's grasp, but she struggles to contain his psionic energies. I will leave Hope to finish the job of killing you while Stryfe laughs. I have work to do to bring about the apocalypse. Notice the capital A in apocalypse, so he's bringing the villain apocalypse, not just the destruction. Stryfe is attempting to escape into the past. Who knows what havoc he will wreak. Stryfe gains Stalwart. Each identity gains +2 hand size. Increase the resource cost to play each player card by 1. Interesting. So you gain extra cards, but it costs 1 extra to play all your cards. And then he has a side scheme, Stryfe's Grasp. Permanent. 6 hinder and 6 per player. Hope Summers can attack only Stryfe and can thwart only this scheme. Force response after Stryfe is defeated or the last threat is removed from the scheme. Flip this card and reveal Living Bomb. Place any threat here on Living Bomb. Alright, so then basically this just flips over. Mimicking Stryfe's power is too much for Hope to control and threatens to overwhelm her with explosive results. Victory 1. Stryfe cannot be defeated. When revealed, advance the main scheme to 2A. This effect cannot be cancelled. Interesting, so you have to basically get rid of that before you worry about the main scheme. He's going to get some attachments, of course, so psionics, mental transferal, conditioning, psionic. Hey, there's Warpath again. If Stryfe's Grasp is in play, attach to Hope Summers, otherwise attach their identity. After Stryfe takes any amount of damage, attach character takes an equal amount of damage, discard this card. Mind alteration, attach to your identity. It's Pete Wisdom. That's cool. Force response, after you play an event or upgrade, take 1 damage. Response, after you recover, spend a genius resource to discard this card. Mind trap, attach to your identity. Your allies, upgrades, and supports enter play exhausted. Exhaust 3 cards you control to discard this. And there's Siren. Psionic Amnesia. Oh, with the Marrow. That's interesting with the Morlocks. Because I don't think he's ever actually been a part of X-Force. Condition, Psionic, attach your identity. Increase the resource cost of up to each ally support you play by 2. Response, after you play an ally or support, exhaust your identity to discard this card. So these are all going to be very pain in the ass cards to play against, because they're going to mess with all your stuff and you have to spend things to get rid of them. We have 2 copies of Psychic Inertia. There's Caliban. Attach your identity. You have -1 thwart and -1 attack. If your hero is attacked and thwarted this phase, discard this card. You have to attack and thwart. It is as if something is holding Caliban back. You're attacked and thwarted. Oh, that is going to be very difficult to do. We get a special minion in 0, part of the Mutant Liberation Front. Guard, Patrol, Toughness. When defeated, if the player who defeated 0 does not have at least 3 cards of the same type in their hand, shuffle 0 into the counter deck. He's a teleporter. We get some side schemes. Psylocke and Archangel. Cerebral Erasure. When revealed, return an upgrade or support you control to its owner's hand. When defeated, the player defeated scheme returns an upgrade or support they control to its owner's hand. That sucks. Here we have Telepathic Camouflage with Richter. When revealed, each player places X threat here, where X is the most common number of cards in their hand. Some treacheries. We have Psionic Surge. When revealed, discard the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the number of cards most common in your hand. Deal each Psionic card, discard this way to yourself as a face-down encounter card. Interesting. So I could really hit hard that way. 2 copies of Psychic Overload. When revealed, choose a card type, then discard each card from your hand is not that type. Drop to 1 of your hand size. Place one threat on the main steam for each card of the chosen type in your hand. This is interesting. And then boost is discard one card from your hand, then draw one. So if you have like 2 events, 2 supports, 3 allies, you could opt to get rid of one of the 2 guys and then redraw them. But you could also opt to get rid of the 3 allies and be like, I don't really need these allies that much, I guess I have some out in play. And you can redraw and hope to get other different cards. It's an interesting way to almost refill your hand if you need to. And then 3 copies of Telekinetic Wave. When revealed, return upgrade or support you control to your hand. Stryfe activates against you. Boost, if you have at least 3 cards in your hand that share a type, place 3 threat on the main steam. That's cool. So that's Stryfe. Then we have 2 more modular encounters to add to this. We're going to get extreme measures, which are going to add some Mutant Liberation Front members. We start with Strobe. Patrol. When revealed, choose stun each character you control or deal 1 damage to each character you control. Then we get Tempo. When Tempo is engaged with you, you get +1 hand size. Force response after Tempo activates against you. Discard cards from the top of your deck equal to twice the number of cards in your hand. So yeah, they're kind of punishing you for having more cards. Even like Stryfe gets you an extra 1 card in your hand. That's, you're like, well, isn't that good to have a bigger hand size? Except that's more chance of them having the same card types to work against you. Thumbelina. Reduce the amount of damage Thumbelina takes from each attack by 1, unless the attacker has the tiny trait. Which is very interesting, because I don't think any X-Men character, X-Men, X-Force, X-Factor has tiny that I can think of. The only character I can even think of generally in Marvel that would have it would be Wasp or Ant-Man. Although with Hope out, if you have one of them, Hope could copy that ability. When revealed, return the highest cost upgrade you control to its owner's hand. And then Wild Side. Mutant Liberation Front. When revealed, choose Wild Side attacks you. Return the highest cost support you control to its owner's hand. 3 attack. And then they have a side steam here. Extreme measures. Hinder 2 per player. Force response after a player card enters play, its controller takes indirect damage equal to that printed cost. Alright, then our last group is more Mutant Liberation Front members. This is fun. This entire set is pretty interesting. We have Dragoness. Force interrupt when Dragoness activates against you. She gets X steam and X attack for the activation, where X is the number of energy resources in your hand. Oh, so it's going to punish you for what you have in your hand, just like lots of Stryfe's cards do. Cool. Forearm. Force response, after he attacks, you discard X cards from the top of your deck, where X is the number of might resources in your hand. They call me Forearm because I give good back rubs. We have Reaper. Force interrupt. When Reaper attacks you, if you have at least 2 genius resources in your hand, stun your identity, at least 4 exhaust your identity. And then finally we have Samurai. Force response after Samurai attacks you, place 1 charge counter here. Choose 1, take damage equal to number of charge counters on Samurai, or discard 1 card you control the printed cost equal to or greater than the number of charge counters on Samurai. And then the last one we have is Mutant Insurrection. Assault, you have to use attack to defeat it. Minions gain toughness. When revealed, place 2 additional threats here for each Mutant Liberation Front character in play. If no additional threat was placed this way, this card gains surge. Now this one you can get even worse, tied in with the Stryfe set, because you have Extreme Measures deck, which has Mutant Liberation Front, as well as Stryfe himself has it. So you have more characters that could easily have this out, versus just adding this to a random deck. Alright. So that is what we have for the next evolution. The villain set is really fun, adds some interesting stuff. I love that they kind of go a little bit deep into the lore with the characters, because we're getting Mutant Liberation Front, we're getting Nasty Boys, the Marauders, kill a bunch of them. The characters actually play very interesting, like messing with stuff in your, like taking note of what's in your hand, or randomized enemies. Like all these encounters and all the sets, I'll have unique and different gimmicks. It's always neat that they find some new way to manipulate the way the game can work against you. And there's a bunch of stuff that involves playing extra. The Marauders had stuff that put extra threats on Steams. If you're playing like the player side schemes from like Cable and Domino's decks, as well as the other X-Force members and the hero packs coming later, that adds to those too, right? So you put them like, oh, I can deal with these quick. And all of a sudden they come out and they drop another scheme on each one. That's one more you have to deal with. So definitely a fun and interesting set. So hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the rest of the Marvel Champions. Check out the upcoming hero packs, which have more X-Force members. See you guys later. Bye.